David Barnabas Spector in the flesh. Man, I want to thank you for doing this. I've just mentioned it to you. When I started doing these interviews recently, you're one of the first ones that really came to mind because I really want to get into this because you've done a great job of this. You're a wrestling personality that, man, even if fans have never been to a show that you're on down in Memphis or whatnot, they've seen you. They know who you are. At least seen your picture somewhere because you really stand out. And I want in a little bit we're going to get into the marketing side of that. But how long have you been in the business for?
Well, first off, Reggie, I certainly appreciate the kind words. I mean, that truly means a lot, and it is an amazing indication that everything that I've been doing over the last several years is having an impact. Because, even though the live experience is of the utmost importance, obviously having the impact on social media and having my presence felt on all platforms is sometimes even more important and thankfully impressive to fans, promoters, bookers, and the like. So the fact that you've said such things and with such praise and kind words, I sincerely appreciate that. I've been doing this now since I originally started my training many years ago in upstate New York, Schenectady, New York, to be exact, with a company called World of Hurt Wrestling. They are still in existence to this very day, run by a fellow manager named Kenny Casanova, who also does, he is the author of many biographies on wrestlers. But that's where I cut my teeth on the business. A lot of starts and stops along the way. A brief flirtation with Ultimate Pro Wrestling in California at one point when I lived in Las Vegas. That was run by Rick Bassman. If you are a wrestling historian, you know that Rick Bassman is responsible for discovering Sting and the Ultimate Warrior. He also, through UPW, had stars like John Cena and The Miz, et cetera, Samoa Joe, Frankie Kazarian, all those guys all came through there. Eventually, I moved from Las Vegas to the Cincinnati, Ohio area. Almost started retraining with the old HWA. Back in the days when HWA and OVW still had ties to WWE. Personal issues, personal life, bad decisions kept me from doing what I really wanted to do. And again, like the stutter stop situation continued until the point where a number of years later, I started to get into photography, ringside photography and videography for wrestling, boxing, MMA, live concerts, but inadvertently through photography. And the crazy thing is, Reggie, is that there's a number of wrestling managers and personalities that have gone the exact same route. Jim Cornette, Paul Heyman, Dr. Tom Pritchard is another one that all did ringside photography before they went on to do so much more. So inadvertently, unbeknownst even to myself, while I was ringside and capturing the action, I was meeting people. I was networking without networking. And I was building rapport with people across the board in multiple states. And that ended up serving me well to where in 2018, I decided, I'm not a kid, but I know I can do this. I can wrestle occasionally, but not a full-time schedule, but I can talk and I'm a personality. And from being in enough locker rooms around enough hungry young talent, I knew that that was my niche, because as athletically gifted as so many youngsters are then and now, they are terrified of talking, or, it just takes time for them to develop that skill set. Whereas this is what I've done my entire life. I'm a communicator. I went to school for radio broadcasting and television production. I worked in professional radio for a time. I worked in actual TV for a time. So I took that skill set, unlike some managers, and I'm not casting stones or throwing shade,
Right.
but there's many managers out there that are working that have never been properly trained. They've never gone through actual full wrestling training. And Reggie, anytime that I'm a guest on a podcast, I try to utilize the platform not just to promote myself, because that's what everybody does, but I also try to use it as an opportunity for anyone that would be watching or listening that's either in the business or thinking about getting in the business. I try to use these as opportunities to just drop nuggets, words of wisdom. So here's number one. Anyone involved in the professional wrestling industry, I would highly encourage to get properly trained. And I'm saying anyone involved in the wrestling business. So wrestlers, obviously, managers, most certainly, referees, without question. But I'm even talking about announcers, anyone, because you never know when you'll be called upon to get physical. And you don't want to have a lack of training be an excuse why you can't do what you're being asked to do and fully living your dream. So for me, even though I had some previous training when I still lived in New York and would have and could have just started managing based upon that, I in my heart felt like I needed, because so much time had passed, there's so much beyond ring rust, that I wanted to continue my training and get officially signed off on by a true, real deal trainer. So I ended up contacting Cody Hawk, who I already knew because I had already done photography and videography for different promotions he had worked with. Mm-hmm. And he agreed to train me. And, I was trained in the same capacity as everyone else. I went through the same curriculum that John Moxley and Sami Callihan and LA Knight, and currently he's working with the micro promotion and Pigeon Forge, with the show that's on Discovery right now, and I'm very happy for him. I will always credit him for being patient with me, because it's not like I'm a natural athlete, but for some strange reason, Reggie, I'm built like Gumby, where I've taken some crazy bumps sometimes. And for whatever reason, it's not like I'm pain free, because I'm definitely not pain free. But I've been able to stand the rigors and the test of time, where a lot of people who love wrestling and want to be a part of the business, as passionate as they are, just some people are just not physically built to do this. But I completed my training, and I have been working ever since. And essentially from the end of 2018 onward, I have been regularly working in the business, trying my best to have my presence and leave my footprint on as many states and as many promotions that matter as I possibly can.
Was it difficult to make that decision of in-ring wrestling isn't necessarily for me, but maybe another area was, or was that an easy decision for you to make?
The funny thing, Reggie, is the fact that time brought clarity to me in options and choices and decisions. So like so many people that I talk to when it comes to following their dreams and doing what they really want to do, this is the curse of the young, is everyone thinks that time is infinite. But the reality is that our most precious commodity is indeed time. So time is ticking, and you only have so long to do the things that you truly want to do. And there are so many times when I was young where I would procrastinate, or I would self-sabotage, or I would get on this kick that a lot of people do of wanting things to be perfect. Like, oh no, I'm not ready, my body's not there yet, or the situations aren't just perfect. But when the situation's perfect, that's when I'll take action. But the sad reality is that if you're waiting for everything to be perfect before you take action, you'll never take action. You'll be in the old folks' home, slurping a prune smoothie with your false teeth, 3 hairs on your head, daydreaming about what if. And I lived in a just a horrid situation, a horrid world of regret for years, that I had put my dream on the back burner. When they talk, Reggie, about getting bit by the wrestling bug, I mean, that's a cute little saying, but the reality is that it's absolutely true. Like, if you truly have been bit by the bug, the professional wrestling bug, like, it's insatiable. It's not something that you can deny or ignore. I mean, there's any number of ways that you could put this, but every individual on the planet has certain gifts bestowed upon them by their creator. And these are gifts that some people just they can't come to grips with it. They try to deny it, they ignore it, and they're miserable because they're denying themselves who they truly are. And that's exactly what I did for several years, is I denied what I really wanted to do and denied who I'm truly supposed to be. But it was in the spring of 2018. There was a larger wrestling event that I had photographed, and I was incredibly excited about it. And I'm not going to name names, but there was a lot of name talent involved. And I was so beyond jacked that my work was going to be seen and used by these larger companies. And I'd always been given photo credit before for what I did, because here's another tip for everyone out there. If you are not just in pro wrestling, if you are in any form of entertainment, if you utilize a photographer's photos and you know the photographer and you know the work they put in, please at least give them a photo credit on any post you put out on social media.
Thank you.
It's not always about compensation. It's about, recognition for your work, and realistically for a photographer, that's your business card. So locally, I utilize an amazing gentleman that has become one of my closest friends. His name is Shawn Lawrence. A lot of the incredible photos that you've seen online, Reggie, many of them are from Shawn.
Okay.
And every time I share those, I always give Shawn credit, because I know he is more than fair on his asking price. More often than not, all he's looking for is, like, he loves the fact that he sees individuals in our industry utilize his photos, share his photos, but by acknowledging him, by giving him that photo credit, that just helps him promote his business. It just helps promote his brand and who he is. It's just an acknowledgement of, hey, thank you. That's literally all that is. But during that big event that I was discussing and speaking about back in 2018, star talent, huge event. Some of it may have actually even been on TV. Photos were shared by multiple companies. No photo credit given to me. That's the point where I made up my mind of, David, what the hell are you doing? Why are you not doing what you really want to be doing? If you're going to deal with this kind of nonsense, like, why not just do what you really want to do, which is to actually perform? And then it's just the reality of, like, okay, like, it's not that I'm not in shape. It's not that I'm not fit, but there's a difference between being fit for, a 40-ish-year-old guy and being ready to do the deal in the ring on a consistent basis. CM Punk is finding that out the hard way right now.
Yes.
That a 40-plus-year-old man cannot take 8-10 years off from the ring and think that he can bounce right back and compete at a high level without getting injured. So that's the reality of the situation. Is I knew physically I could occasionally wrestle, and I do occasionally wrestle. It ain't pretty, but I do it. But I knew I could perform and entertain between my radio work, my television work, a little bit of acting I've done, and just an absolute love for this business. I've been a student of wrestling, of the professional wrestling game, ever since I was a little boy. Through the after mags, through VHS tapes, through books, through anything I could get my hands on. And I literally have studied for decades and have this massive Rolodex of ideas and promos and rivalries and matches that quite frankly the younger generation just simply doesn't have. And even if you have the WWE network on Peacock and whatever YouTube, you still don't have the same depth of knowledge I have in my mind, because not only do I have everything that I watched back then, but now I've gone back and revisited certain territories that weren't easily accessible to me by at that point in time. One of them being Memphis, which is an area where, wow, the Memphis territory has been a godsend to me and to my main client, Maurice The Strong, as part of the Circuz. The opportunities that Dustin Starr and the current incarnation of Memphis Wrestling has provided. From day one, here's a little pull back the curtain thing. So for me, this is an indicator of if a promotion or a promoter is going to take my act seriously and do something of value with what we do. I'm obviously known as a talker. If a promotion doesn't give me a live mic and doesn't allow me to talk on a show when I'm first coming in, that's almost always 99.9% of the time, it's an indicator that they have no idea who I am or what I truly bring to the table.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case in Memphis. First night there, Grind City Rumble last year, one of their biggest events of the year. The Grind City Rumble is essentially their Royal Rumble, and most everybody there just gets like the buzzer goes off, the next person runs out to the ring. We got a full circus entrance where he trusted me with a live microphone and allowed me to do my thing. And ever since that point, our relationship has grown and the opportunities have flourished under his tutelage and under his booking, under his mentorship. But Memphis as a territory, I would certainly Lawler in the magazines, Lawler, Kaufman, all of it in the magazines. Later, I would start to get VHS tapes, the Wrestling Gold collection. If you look that up, it's a hodgepodge in different territories, but a lot of it was Memphis footage. The first time anyone was put through a table was Rock and Roll Express versus Randy Savage and Lanny Poffo in Memphis. Randy Savage pile drives Ricky Morton through a table. That's a part of Memphis history, but those VHS tapes is where I was truly introduced to Memphis wrestling. Lawler, Bill Dundee, Dutch Mantel, Joe LeDuc, the list goes on and on and on and on. And it captured my imagination then, but over the last 6-7 years, I've gone back and delved deep into the archives of Memphis wrestling and truly been educated to how influential Jimmy Hart was on that territory. And if you only know Jimmy Hart from WWF or WCW, his greatest work was easily in Memphis, Tennessee. He was irreplaceable in Memphis. And there's so many managers after he left that tried. But there's a reason why business began to drop after he left, because he was an intricate part of the success of that territory. The rivalry between Jimmy Hart and Jerry Lawler is what built that territory and made it truly successful. And there were others that came along afterward and tried to take Jimmy's place, and they kept it on life support for a number of years after, but it was never the same. And that formula very much was utilized by WWF in regards to Bobby Heenan and Hulk Hogan. Very similar formula, but even more so in Memphis. Jimmy Hart was an intricate part of ensuring that Jerry Lawler always had fresh opposition, fresh opponents, but the heated rivalry, the hatred between the two, always so present on screen. But Jimmy Hart doesn't get the credit he deserves because he helped to nurture Kaufman, Jim Cornette, Sherry Martel, Paul Ellering. The list goes on and on and on and on and on of people that his thumbprint is all over all those individuals and then some. So in all the cast of colorful characters and the emotion and the drama, like that's my style of pro wrestling. Some people will speak disparagingly about the Memphis style, but I love it because it's all about entertainment, it's all about drama, it's all about emotion. It's such a unique blend of like these cartoony over the top characters and then real emotion and real drama, and they just clash and mesh and it's such a unique presentation. And what we do today on the modern day product of Memphis wrestling, I say this sometimes in social media posts. It's like, you're not going to find a more entertaining hour of pro wrestling entertainment than Memphis. Hands down. I don't care what company it is, and I'm not, speaking disparagingly about any promotion out there. I'm glad that there's a variety of options for the fans nowadays and for workers to be able to go to. But I defy any brand, any company to say that Memphis Wrestling Television is not the most fun wrestling hour you are going to find anywhere around the entire globe.
How did you get connected with Maurice? What is the origin of the circus? There's been other members and iterations of that in the past, but I remember I worked a couple shows with him up in Indiana, I think before he went to Memphis. How did you get connected with Maurice? And what are the origins of the circus? How did you come up with that concept? Because it just stands out. There's nothing else
Uh,
like it.
and I genuinely appreciate that. Maurice was someone who I had seen come across my Facebook feed a number of times. And obviously, he has a striking look.
Mhm.
But just because someone has a striking look doesn't mean that it always translates into great in-ring performer. But I was intrigued. And, obviously at the same time, he was seeing me pop up on his timeline and feed. And he left a comment on one of my posts, commenting that he really liked my name.
Mhm.
And then we started to chat a little bit. And I reached out to a few people that I knew were aware of him, or were helping him train, or were giving him work. And I got their feedback. And is this someone I need to have an eye on? Is this someone that has potential? And across the board, the resounding answer was yes. So we talked in much more in depth. And when we first started to work together, he was still known as DNA.
Yeah.
And we worked together in that capacity for a brief period of time, maybe 6 months, something like that, if even that. The origins of the circus. So EC3 is someone that I have known for the
Oh.
better part of the last 3 to 4 years. Um, he, when I originally met him, we were at a show, Ring Wars, Carolina, North Carolina. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Fodder and Eddie McCoy, in Ring Wars, Carolina. Easily one of the best locker rooms I have ever been in. Such a fantastic group of guys and gals, talented, ultra supportive. Um, you couldn't ask for a better collection of people.
Nice.
But EC3 was there because he and still is friends with Fodder, and had done a seminar earlier in the day. And during the show, I had asked him if he would watch my segment, and any feedback would be greatly appreciated. And he was kind enough to oblige, and he gave me some solid feedback in his own way, because he is he's an interesting human being.
I've heard he can be
Little eccentric,
very big.
but he is, honestly, he's a mad genius. Not Some people find it hard to understand him. There's times where I've had difficulty understanding him. And when he's ready for you to understand, you'll understand. But that started our relationship. Control Your Narrative became a thing.
Yeah.
It started to grow, and I believe this would have been in May of 2022, if my recollection is correct. There was essentially a tryout in Cleveland, Ohio, and just by circumstance, I originally had planned on going with individuals that I was working with at that point, DNA being one of them. He ended up injuring his neck and was sidelined for a time, for a handful of weeks, actually. And I ended up going by myself. And but I also knew that there would be a number of people there that I already knew and I was already aware of. And we basically did sample promos in front of EC3 and Austin Aries, who was associated with the company at that point. And I'm going to go into more detail here than probably I first planned, but I'll go ahead and tell you the story, Reggie, because it's a good lesson for people that are thinking about being involved with the business, and maybe even just people just in life. But so I had a promo prepared. It was per minute promo, minute and a half maybe. And I had it in my mind, and it's roughly a 4-hour drive from where I reside to Cleveland, where the event was. And I had the promo set, and I'm waiting for my turn, and I'm in full gimmick, and I'm ready to go, and I'm pacing, and I'm like, I got this. I'm going to just destroy these people with this promo. And I get in front of EC3. Austin Aries is there, and the crowd that we had is there. The other individuals that were involved in the tryout. And I start going into the promo, and my mind goes completely blank.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. This has never happened to me before. I've cut so many promos, live, pre-tape, whatever the case may be. This has never happened before. Start cutting this promo, and my mind goes completely blank. And I'm like, oh my God. It's okay. It's okay. Go ahead. Just keep going. Okay. So I figure out where I'm at in the promo, and I continue. I get maybe another sentence or two out, and it happens again. And I'm thinking in my mind, oh my God, David, you just killed your own chance here to do this.
Right.
You just sabotage yourself. So EC3 had done this with some of the other individuals that were there taking part in the tryout. He would say certain things to get their mind off from being anxious or nervous, and get them talking more casually and naturally. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but it was something along the lines of, what is your why, or why are you here? And I don't know what it was, but it's like the light bulb went on, and I just, bam, and I went into this impromptu, insanely passionate promo where I melded the persona David Barnabas Spector and who I truly am in real life. And it was a mishmash of the two, but it was so wild and so intense and so vibrant that I had the full attention of EC3 and Austin Aries and everyone watching. But I also had the attention of Adam Shearer, aka Braun Strowman, who was involved with us at that point. I also had the attention of Blake Bulletproof Troop. Let's try that again. Blake Bulletproof Troop, who competes in MMA but also does wrestling, and he's warming up in the ring doing MMA drills. He stops what he's doing. His full attention is on me. The gentleman who was producing the shows at that point stops what he's doing, and he's intensely watching everything I'm doing. Based upon that promo, I earned myself a spot on a 3-day loop that weekend.
Nice.
After that 3-day loop, which was Cleveland, Detroit, and a spot in Milwaukee, around Milwaukee. I stayed in contact with EC3, and he liked what I was doing, but he didn't want to do another darker gimmick. He wanted something different. So I had already started to play with the idea of this ultimate showman character. Going back to Memphis being a place where it's been so good to me. Before I ever got to Dustin Starr's Memphis Wrestling, I worked for Greg Anthony at Pro Wrestling Mid-South. And this Ultimate Showman character is something that I took down to Greg and tested out there. And I shared that with EC3, this Ultimate Showman character. And he sent me back a picture of Hugh Jackman as P.T. Barnum from the movie that he was in about his life. And he's like, "You mean something like this?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, it really is." So that's what began the talk of the circus. And originally, I was just going to utilize people that were already in their system. But EC3 and company, like, they're busy. They, like, everybody's pounding on their door. Everybody's trying to get their attention. Same thing happens today with Exodus Pro in Cleveland, which I'm sure we'll talk more about here in a bit. But so instead of waiting in limbo, I decided to grab a group of individuals and form this faction. And DNA was really the first, and still to this day, the most important component of that group. I went to him and I basically posed the question, are you completely married to this DNA character, or are you open to doing something completely different? And to his credit, his desire to make it superseded his desire to only be DNA, and he was completely open to it. And I pitched the idea, Maurice the Strong. This is all this was mine. This is all stuff that I came up with, but he's brought it to life. I'm the one that came up with the concept, the look, the whole nine, but he's brought it to life. And at first, he didn't like the gear and he didn't think it was going to work. And like the first time we did a test run with it, again, at Greg Anthony's Pro Wrestling Mid-South, we did a test run with it, and he's begrudgingly putting the gear on because he just felt very self-conscious about it.
Yeah.
And like one of the workers saw it in the locker room and they're like, "Oh my God, that looks amazing." And it's like, as soon as that was said, like the light bulb went off in his head and he was like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Yeah, yes, oh." And it just, from that point on, there's been a lot of ups and downs. At this point, and for some time now, it's just been Maurice and I. It's not to say that we may not add additional members to the circus again down the road, but the thing about he and I is we are different people, but in many ways we're very similar in that there is a burning desire and passion to succeed in the wrestling business. I certainly have it, and without question, he has it. Yeah. And there's so many people, Reggie, that say that they want to make it in the wrestling business, and they may genuinely think that they do, but most are not willing to truly do whatever it takes to get to that point, to truly succeed, because it is a massive amount of hard work. It is not just being good in the ring. It's not just being good on the mic. It's having a marketable presentation and look. It is networking and getting in front of the right people and working the social media. And like, there's a whole litany of things, having the right advocates and influencers to speak your name when you're not around. There's so many different factors in this game that have to be taken in consideration. And most really never even get to the point where they start to truly understand what all this really even is. Like, people will be this big fish in a small pond, and they'll be frustrated when they see other people get opportunities, but they don't understand that those people are getting opportunities because they rolled the dice on themselves. They weren't just 40 milers. They went out and they got after it. They put the work in. I've driven thousands and thousands and thousands of miles at this point, Reggie, and so has Maurice. Separately and together we have, and there's thousands more to come. And this is just the nature of wrestling. Is if you're truly going to make your mark and be a legitimate wrestling star, there's no way to get around doing the work. putting time in the ring, putting a massive time on the road, putting the time in the gym, making sure your nutrition's right, working on your promo game, like constantly studying tape and studying the past, studying the present. There's just an endless amount of work that needs to be done. And for those that are truly passionate about it, it's possible. For a lot, they say they want it, but ultimately they are, 40 milers, weekend warriors, or worst case, cosplayers. Which if someone just wants to be a 40 miler, if they're honest about that fact, more power to them. That's not for me. And it's not for Maurice the Strong either. We are aiming to be bona fide wrestling stars that are known nationally and internationally. That is the end goal.
The few shows I spent with him up here in Indy, I didn't know him well, but you could just tell like he's very straightforward about what he likes, what he thinks is good, what he thinks is bad. He will tell you, and he knows exactly what he wants to do and where he wants to go. And you could just tell that there was something different about him just being around him, watching him watch the shows, and it's just you don't see a lot of people like that.
No, he is the as close to a perfect client as I could ever ask for. And in all reality, Reggie, like he and I have talked about this many times, is that, I don't consider myself necessarily his manager. Like he and I work together as a team. So that's the whole presentation is, I may be the evil mastermind that pulls the strings because I'm the diabolical puppeteer, but in all reality, when we go through that curtain, we are working as a team. When I am ringside and he's in the ring, we're working as a unit. It's not so much a manager barking orders at a client. It's a team going out there and winning by any means necessary. But Maurice is without question the most driven client performer that I have ever worked with. It's that desire that has kept me going. That's continued to inspire and motivate me to continue on, because with the wrestling game and the wrestling business, just there's such ebbs and flows, and it's so easy at times to question your sanity and to wonder, like, what am I doing with my life? Is this really going anywhere? There's temptations to want to just hang it up and leave. And when somebody as motivated as he is, and even vice versa, because I know that there have been some difficult times. He suffered a severe injury last year where he tore his ACL. There was other damage to the knee as well. He was out for a good portion of 2023. Just recently, the Circus has started to reopen the Big Top and return to the road. But that was an incredibly trying time. And there's a number of times that I'm sure that he thought about, like, this is not going to happen. Like, but he encourages me and I encourage him. And that's why this works so well. It's not a normal manager-client relationship. The closest comparison I can think to us, and trust me, I by no means am putting us even remotely close on the same level as the two people I'm about to say, but The Undertaker and Paul Bearer is probably the closest that I can think of in regards to an act that was truly unique and unusual, where for the longest time you couldn't think of one without the other. Yeah. And that, in our own way, that is, the type of act and relationship, both on and off screen, that Maurice and I have, is that you can't see one without thinking about the other. And if we can even just barely touch the level of success that Mark and Percy had, like who in the business could ask for anything more than that? Arguably one of the greatest to ever do it in The Undertaker, and one of the most iconic managers ever, Percy Pringle, aka Paul Bearer.
You talked about how when you're ringside, it's not necessarily a manager wrestler um, relationship. It's more of a tandem and a team. I feel like that is something that's lost when it comes to managers now. There's a lot of managers that, honestly, a lot of times, especially on the indies, it's just a dude ringside sometimes. It isn't really, they're just there. What do you think is missing right now with managers? Why do you think there aren't as many Jimmy Harts and Paul Bearers and Cornettes anymore? What separates the good from the great and the from good? What is it?
So, getting back to something that I said earlier, um, training, being properly trained is here's the importance of being trained, Reggie. It's not just learning how to take a bump, though that is important.
Mhm.
It's learning how to work. It's learning the psychology of a match and the storytelling that we do. It's understanding that a manager's role can be crucial throughout a match, but there are times for you to be seen, and then there's times for you to fade into the background. There's
Mhm.
times for you to insert yourself into a match, and then there's times for you not to do so. And someone who is not trained, who has no idea of psychology, is not going to be able to do that. Um, Again, pulling back the curtain more than I normally would, but you asked for this, Reggie. Um, it's not a secret that the majority of modern day performers talk about their matches in the back prior to the event, prior to the match. They talk through the things that they plan on doing. They come up with their ideas and their concepts, and they structure, at very least, typically a skeleton of what the match is going to be.
Mhm.
A lot of managers will just allow the, the workers to tell them what they're going to do in the match, and that's all they know. They don't listen. They don't sit in with the boys talking through the match. They don't say anything. They literally just do what they're told. They do their spot. They really don't pay much attention to anything else that's going on. They do their shtick on the outside, whatever that is, and that's it. And that's not what this is. That has never been what this is. A full fledged, true professional wrestling manager, properly trained, pro from head to toe, is involved in the process of structuring a match. When I am involved in any matchup, I sit in with the boys that are talking through the match. And I'll add feedback when I feel it's needed or necessary or required. I will add suggestions on my role in the match. There are times when I'm working with lesser experienced talent, or if there's a particular agenda at hand, that I will literally call the majority of the match myself.
Hmm.
If I was not trained, if I was not a professional, there is no way that I could do that. And even if I did that, I wouldn't expect the boys and girls in the back to acknowledge it or appreciate it or accept it if I didn't have a professional background to support it, a professional resume to support it. This is the difference. The difference is the training, the understanding of psychology, the presentation and appearance. How many shows do you go to, Reggie, and you've seen managers that were little more than someone's friend, buddy, or pal that showed up in jeans and a t-shirt, pulled a ratty sport coat that they bought at Goodwill, throws that on, and now magically they're a professional wrestling manager?
Yeah.
Like, it's a joke. And the same thing goes for obviously wrestlers too, and having professional gear. But like all of us, like the whole point is, why are you out there? What is the reason that you are ringside? What do you bring to the table? Like an example would be the circus. So we've got Maurice the Strong. I'm the ringmaster, Barnabas the Leader. Obviously, there's a reason why I'm out there, because I'm the ringmaster of the circus, and I show that through my gear, through my voice, through my actions. It's like a lot of this just is psychology, storytelling, doing things that make sense. But to fully answer your question, it all comes back to not being properly trained. And because so many people think that being involved in the business is easy, it devalues the role of the manager. And it's the reason why a lot of promoters either won't book managers or pay managers dirt pay, because they're used to Joe Schmo's cousin wandering in with his dirty overalls and his un unbrushed teeth and unwashed hair,
Yeah.
that could barely put a sentence together, pretending to be a manager. I mean, it just that's that's the crux of the issue and the situation. But it's also the reason why I always am excited to see quality managers working out there. And and then there definitely they exist. Hollywood House in
Yes.
Indiana. I love his work. I know Mortimer, someone you've had on your show. A
Mhm.
big fan of what he does in Supreme.
Yeah.
Um, locally, Russell Act a Fool Bland and his act with Jake Shepard. I love that act. In Memphis, we've got Hollywood Jimmy Blaylock, who, when I first met Jimmy, he told me that he had been on television with Steve Harvey and Conan O'Brien. And to be quite honest, I thought he was completely full of it,
Right.
because I don't know how long you've been around the wrestling business, Reggie, but
That happens
here's
a
a
lot.
news flash. It's filled with a bunch of carnies and liars and con men. So
Yeah.
so you hear tall tales on the regular. So
Yeah.
he told me that, and on the long drive home, Maurice was driving, I'm in the passenger seat. I pull up my phone, and just out of curiosity, I start looking up Jimmy Blaylock on YouTube. Some of his wrestling stuff came up first, but then, sure enough, one of the first things to come up after wrestling, his appearance on Conan O'Brien.
Huh.
Said, "You've got to be kidding me." So he's been on Conan, he's been on Steve Harvey, he was on an old school show called Putting on the Hits. He's done a ton of real
Huh.
TV, so his gimmick is real. So, and he is as Memphis manager can be, and I love it. And I've told him many times that he is the measuring stick down there, and he is the person that I am chasing, because
Huh.
he's the guy down there when it comes to managers. But I told him, like, this year I'm coming for you, Jimmy, and I say that in a fun,
Yeah.
a fun competitive way, because I have the utmost respect for everything he does, and he's a good guy. As a matter of fact, he's running an awesome show at Tupelo Con on March 16th in Tupelo, Mississippi. The Circus, one of our first major live appearances back outside of Memphis, is going to be there. We were at Tupelo Con last year. It was so much fun. The fans were awesome. Like, it's a cool Comic Con, and then we've got a fun wrestling event at night. They've got Austin Idol, the Universal Heartthrob, who legend in Memphis wrestling, but also modern day manager of the National Wrestling Alliance. Butterbean, who floored Bart Gunn, but is also, and Johnny Knoxville. But just a good guy. He's lost a ton of weight. He looks amazing.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to him. So that'll be a fun event. But so there are quality matches out there. Oh, actually, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a couple more. Aaron Stevens, who used to work as Damian Sandow in WWE, has become someone that I am fortunate to say that I've been able to sit beneath his learning tree.
Nice.
And he is an amazing promo. He's an amazing performer. I just saw him this past weekend in Cleveland as part of NWA Exodus Pro. What a professional. What an absolute pro at what he does. And of course, one of the best managers that's still, well, I keep adding up, I keep adding to my list, Reggie. Through Memphis Wrestling, I've been very blessed to last year have an opportunity to share a locker room and actually work a segment on television with Prince Nana. And Prince Nana is easily one of the hottest managers of
Yeah.
wrestling today. And again, talking about an act that is truly over now, Prince Nana and Swerve, piece de resistance. Absolutely beautiful. I love the super serious nature of Swerve and Nana being the entertainer and a
Yeah.
little bit of comic relief. And he's doing the traditional manager role, but he's doing it in a different way. The dance is over like crazy. But it's such a good guy and another person I was able to learn from. And the last one I'll mention, and we'll move on, is the individual that I have been compared to the most since day one. And that, of course, is Sinister Minister himself, Father James Mitchell, who is still working to this very day in the National Wrestling Alliance. Someone that I met for the first time last year. He's been nothing but amazing. As I've told him a number of times, when I started my managerial career, I had respect for his body of work, but I never sought out to be him or be like him. My managerial influences have always been Gary Hart, Paul Ellering, Percy, Jimmy Hart, Bobby Heenan, the list goes on.
Yeah.
But the comparisons between myself and James Mitchell have been constant all the way through. And he and I have had a number of conversations, both in person and through Messenger. As a matter of fact, we just messaged back and forth a little bit earlier today.
Nice.
And it's so awesome, Reggie, to meet somebody that you don't know how they're going to take it. You don't know, like, is he going to be upset? Is he going to be angry that I look too much like him? That there's too many comparisons, but nothing could be further from the truth. Completely supportive, very much someone that I'm comfortable talking to and bouncing ideas off from. So there are still great managers out there, new and established, but the secret ingredient to developing managers for the future and beyond is, first and foremost, everybody needs to be properly trained.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned some names. A lot of people have come through Memphis over the last few years that you've had a chance to work with. Too honestly, too many to name, but what are some lessons you've taken away from working shows with them? Because I feel like a lot of guys, even on the indie level, get a chance to work shows with, a bigger name. They don't take an opportunity to sit down with them, talk to them. The most they do is maybe ask for a picture or a selfie, and then that's it. They don't take that opportunity. Obviously, I'm sure like you absolutely have. What are some things you've learned?
So when it comes to, if anyone is working an event with a top tier name talent, now of course this is going to depend upon the talent, because sometimes, Reggie, certain individuals they're not as easily approachable as others. Sometimes it does happen. Like, you may have the best of intentions to want to pick someone's brain or ask them questions, and it's obvious by their body language and their tone that they just don't want to be bothered.
Mhm.
And, we're all human beings. I mean, that's something that I think gets lost, is that sometimes, people in a locker room, they'll have a bad experience with a legend, and they'll be like, oh, he was an a-hole or a jerk or whatnot. But it's like we're all human beings. Like, everybody has an off day. Like, and sometimes you've got a lot on your mind. You don't know what that person's going through. Maybe they have marital issues, children, health. Who knows? There could be any litany of reasons why maybe they're not warm and fuzzy and friendly on that particular day. But with that being said, and all that put aside, if we're talking about the vast majority of legends that I have been able to share a locker room with in Memphis, in Cleveland, one of the main spots is, without question, Bobby Fulton and his son Dylan and their promotion, World Class Championship Big Time Wrestling. In Chillicothe, Ohio, Circleville, Ohio, My
Yes.
God, man, I've been blessed with the opportunity to meet so many legends and to have an opportunity to speak with so many legends because of Bobby and his son Dylan. Um, but the main thing that for anyone out there watching, sometimes I'll get a photo with people and sometimes I won't. And again, some of that is based upon me reading the room
Hmm.
and seeing like, okay, is it something that they're cool with or are they not? But when I have a legend there, is that my main priority to get a pic with them? No. My main priority is to meet them, to talk with them, to hopefully learn a little something from them. Um, for a time in Memphis, we had Marty Elias as one of our referees. The same Marty Elias that worked for WWE and Lucha Underground, the same referee that refed what Undertaker says is his greatest match, which was Taker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25. We had Marty as one of our referees, which is mind blowing to me.
Oh,
So it's like, I'm not just going to ask him ref questions. I'm going to ask him questions about everything because, my God, you talk about someone that has been around the absolute creme de la creme, the best of the best. I want to try to pick his brain and soak every bit of information that I can. And I remember a show where there was a gentleman there that was working that I knew that refed his match. He had no idea who Marty was.
what?
So I smartened him up to that. You got to remember, Reggie, like some people's depth of information and knowledge
Yeah.
about wrestling is just not there. So I made him aware of who he was and I encouraged him to go talk to him. And it wasn't until I encouraged him that he finally went up and started to talk with him and get some real feedback about the match. But it's just, you never know who can share that little piece of wisdom with you that you didn't have before. Um, we had Shane Douglas. Shane Douglas is someone that I've known for quite some time. I loved his work. I've loved his work for years, ever since he was a young kid working for Bill Watts and the old Universal Wrestling Federation, through all of it, WWF, WCW, ECW, back to WWF, back to ECW, WCW, and beyond. Huge Shane Douglas fan, great promo. He came to Memphis and I had him watch our segment and get feedback. And it's just, you can't hesitate to do these things. Ultimately, Reggie, what this all comes down to, again, we were talking about time earlier and how the curse of youth is to think that you have this infinite amount of time. I'm not going to bother him today. I'll ask him the next time I see him. You may never see him again. You may never see that legend again. You may never have an opportunity to be able to pick that person's brain ever again. So rather than to come up with excuses or procrastination or second guessing or doubting or rumination or whatever the case may be, just ask for help. Just ask for feedback. Another component on this, and then we can move on to the next topic, is I feel like a lot of folks in the business today have a very thin skin and do not respond well to criticism and feedback. There was an event that I worked. It was one of Bobby Fulton's events. And I'm sharing this with you because I'm not ashamed to say this, because no one's perfect and people make mistakes. And you know what? It's part of the business and it's part of learning. So I worked a match for Bobby Fulton and it was a bigger show. And I came back through the curtain and Bushwhacker Luke was someone that was helping to agent the show and produce matches in the back. Luke is an incredible guy, done far more in the business than most understand. He's been a promoter, he's been a booker, in addition to being a wrestler, a gym owner. Like he's done a ton of stuff, and he continues to do a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
I got back to the curtain, and he lit into me about a number of things that he felt I could have done better. And he tried to soften the blow by, basically saying, "Hey, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just, And I'm like, Luke, you're completely fine. Honest to God, I don't get real feedback very often. Like for the most part, people see me, they hear the promo, great job. And I appreciate every kind word everyone says to me. But as a performer, as a professional, I need real feedback.
Yeah.
I have to have real feedback. And that day, what Luke said to me, and I'm not going to share the details. This is
Yeah.
not
You don't.
important right at this point in time, but it's like I wasn't offended at all. If anything, I was grateful that a legend, a WWE Hall of Famer, took the
Yeah.
time to watch my match to give me feedback and critique. That thought enough of me to think, okay, this guy's got enough that if I give him some feedback, he'll correct this and be even better the next time he comes out. Because if I was, I'm going to cuss here, Reggie.
Go for
First
it.
time I've really cussed in this whole show.
It
If I
is.
was the drizzling shits, he wouldn't have bothered.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have wasted his time, but he did. And I absolutely appreciated it. And anytime anyone's ever given me feedback, I've always taken it. And sometimes I don't always agree with it, but it doesn't matter if I agree with it. Maybe it's something that doesn't make sense to me right now. Maybe it'll make sense to me tomorrow or next week or next month or 6 months down the road. Because sometimes that happens. Sometimes someone will share a piece of wisdom with you, and at that point, you don't know how to utilize it or implement it. You can't wrap your mind around it, but you don't forget it. You kind of file it away, and then later you have that aha moment, and then you can actually utilize it. A lot of my relationship with EC3 has been like that. He'll say things in this very cryptic fashion because that's how he is,
Mhm.
and I won't know and I won't completely understand. And then a certain amount of time will pass, and then it's like, now I get it. Now I
Yeah.
understand. Now all this cryptic, mysterious, very vague talk. Now it all makes sense. Now I understand exactly what you were saying, exactly what you meant, and now I share your vision. Sometimes it happens like that, and sometimes it takes an amount of time. But to get back to what I was saying before, I feel like when a lot of the current, and this isn't even just younger folks, just a lot of folks that are involved in the wrestling business have a very thin skin nowadays. And when they have even the slightest bit of critique, they take it personally, they internalize it, and then they shut down and they're not listening to the real gist of what's being said. And there's a lot of words of wisdom, a lot of gems that are there, but if you're not receptive to it, then you're never going to grow as a performer.
Yeah.
You're going to remain stagnant. You're always going to be that same level. If nothing else, Reggie, over the years, if you look at my body of work, it has been a constant evolution. It's been just adaptation all the way through. What I was doing in 2018 and what I do now are drastically different things on every single level. And every performer should be striving to do that, to consistently evolve and grow as a performer. Jericho's somebody that's always credited as being someone that changed with the times, almost the David Bowie of professional wrestling, and that he would switch things up, switch up his look, his gimmick, etc., to make sure he stayed ahead of the curve. In reality, we all have to do that to an extent. It doesn't mean that you abandon what works, but you can't expect to stay the same person wearing the same gear, saying the same things for forever, for an infinite amount of time, because there will be a point where the fans will tire and bore of you and move on. It happened to the biggest box office attraction at that time in our business's history in Hulk Hogan. As much as everybody loved the yellow and red in the 80s, say your prayers, train at your vitamins, there came to be a point by the time we were in the 90s where people were just sick of it. It just got to be too much, and he was forced to change with the times. And then what was old is new all over again, and it completely revitalized his career, because sometimes we all have to do that as performers in the business.
One thing that's really common among a lot of the managers you spoke about and yourself is the appearance, the attire, the identity. You all have something very in common. You stand out and you're visible, and like you with the three-piece suit, Jimmy Hart with the flashy jackets, Paul Bearer with, the macabre. How long did it take you to come down to what we see now with your appearance, your attire, and how
Oh, wow.
important? is that for your character? Obviously, the ringmaster character, ringleader, you have to have that a bit. You have to have that appearance.
So I'll try to address the how long it took first, because that's the more complicated answer, more complicated question to answer. It has taken years to dial in what this character is supposed to look like. And again, with every adaptation to another level of the character, each time goes a different level of the look. So from the formation of the David Barnabas Spector brand initially, it was this dark gothic character, originally with music roots because of working in radio and being involved in running concerts and promoting concerts, having a number of friends that were in the music industry.
Yeah.
So it had elements of that, and then it morphed and changed over time, and a lot of experimentation, a lot of trying different things. Some stuff worked, some different. Uh, some stuff worked, some didn't, not different. But it's been a constant evolution, and it's been, constantly looking for different influences and different looks. A lot of what I do is inspired by Gothic fashion, different films, the music business, like art. It's not necessarily always looking at wrestling for inspiration. Here's another tip. I don't know how many we're up to now. To truly stand out in the wrestling business, don't always just try to be a carbon copy of things that you've watched in the past. Then you're just basically a facsimile of a facsimile, a caricature of what a wrestler is supposed to be, or a manager is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to look outside the business for inspiration to bring it back into the business to be something fresh and new and relevant. So a lot of my stuff, heavy influence from Doug Bradley's portrayal of Pinhead in the Hellraiser franchise. A lot of the verbiage that I've used over the years has been directly plucked from those films, because his voice is so incredible. His delivery is so incredible, and it's so dark and disturbing and terrifying.
There's a little bit of class to it too.
There absolutely is. And if you've ever met Doug Bradley at one of the litany of horror conventions that he makes appearances at, he is such just a good guy, man. Just such a good dude, but such an eloquent speaker. He does audiobooks, and he's been in different films, and had a brief stint in wrestling when what's the clothing company? Blackcraft. Blackcraft had a wrestling promotion in Pennsylvania, and the origin of the Hell Priest, before it was known as Pinhead, he portrayed that character as a part of Blackcraft's wrestling promotion. Didn't last too long, but it was awesome to see, like, wow, like they got Doug Bradley to be a part of this wrestling promotion, and it was so amazing. So the look of the character has taken years for me to get down to, and it's a constant evolution. Even with the ringmaster persona, I didn't want to just buy a generic ringmaster outfit, from a Halloween store, because that's complete trash. Like, I wanted I wanted my attire to tell the audience this is a ringmaster from a circus, but I didn't want it to be generic. I didn't want it to look like it was something off the rack. So it was a combination of taking stuff that I already own and adding new elements in. And with the newest incarnation of the circus, now that Maurice is officially back, we're leaning towards a steampunk influence, and that's changed the look again. And I have this ring coat that has been have got custom artwork all over this ring coat by an amazing local artist. His gimmick name is Taz. His company name is the Sketchpad. He does hot rod cars. He does pinstriping. He does all this amazing artwork. I have a coffin case that I carry my canes in. He's
Oh,
custom. He's put my name on that with awesome pinstriping. But he has made this ring coat, which in all reality, Reggie, was a coat that I had that I had not worn in a while.
right.
It's was I liked it, but it just like it what didn't always strike me as being the
Yeah,
best fit at times.
sure.
And we just completely changed that coat to such a degree to where originally I thought it was just going to be a placeholder coat until I could find something better.
Sure.
But now there is no better. That is the coat because it has such a cool, interesting, striking look. And the new hat and different accessories that I have, it's just like nobody's got the look right now of the circus. And I'm not saying that it's not hyperbole, it's not blasphemy, it's not overinflation of an ego and saying this, but literally, if you look at pics of the circus right now, myself and Maurice The Strong, nobody in the wrestling business looks like us right now. And there are people out there that have circusy-esque gimmicks, but not like us, not even close to like us. But to answer your question about the importance of the look, this isn't just true for managers. This is true of anyone in the wrestling business that's a performer. Aaron Stevens just said this over the weekend in front of a group during a tryout/seminar Friday night in Cleveland as part of Exodus Pro. And he's completely spot on, right on the money. And it's something that I already knew, but it was nice to hear the validation from a professional like him. Right. When you come to that curtain, you have 3 to 5 seconds max to connect with that audience, for them to care about you at all. Think about that. 3 to 5 seconds is all you got. That's it. So when you come through that curtain, there has to be something about you that captures the imagination. Something about you that resonates, something about you that excites the fans, that gets them to sit on the edge of their seat in anticipation of what you're going to do next. And I guarantee that every single time that the circus walks through that curtain, that's exactly what happens every single time. Because nobody looks like us between this bizarre, twisted, evil ringmaster and this super jacked, just amazing, like chiseled out of granite, carnival strongman. And that's the thing too, Reggie, is that when you see us, you don't really have to think too hard about what we are.
Yeah.
Like you get it pretty quickly as soon as we walk through the curtain. And that's the music too. Don't get me wrong. Music is important as well. But the look, like as soon as you walk the curtain, like one of the reasons why I love Hollywood House is his whole gimmick, very much inspired by Spike Lee. And when he comes out, the way he's dressed, he's got the slap board that you would have on a movie set. He literally is dressed kind of like Spike Lee. Escape me from mine. He's dressed like Spike Lee would have dressed back in the day, making Do the Right Thing or Mo Better Blues or whatever the case may be. It's perfect, absolutely perfect. So when he walks through the curtain, you know what he is. God, my memory is escaping me now. Our friend in Supreme, Mortimer. Mortimer's deal, like he comes out and he does the golf club, doesn't he?
Yeah,
that's part of his shtick. Okay, yeah. So again, like the way that he's dressed and he's got his prop and the whole nine, it is not difficult to understand what he is and what he's all about. And all of that is so incredibly important because it sets the tone for the entire act, and it truly aids in how the fans are going to perceive that match. That's another thing too, is gear is not just about telling a story as a character and connecting with the audience that way. It's also, to me anyway, if a performer has professional gear, it is an instant signal to the audience. This is a pro show. This is a pro event. These are professionals in the ring. And what I'm about to see is going to be awesome. Rather than people on the show are dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, The ring announcer is dressed slovenly. He's not in a suit. He's not in a tie. He's not in a tux. He's not in anything other than maybe, again, t-shirt and jeans or whatever the case may be. The wrestlers themselves look like they bought their gear from Hot Topic, et cetera, et cetera. What does that signal the audience? What does that tell the fan? That tells the fan that this is trash bag wrestling, and I'm going to look at my phone rather than looking at the crap that's happening in the ring. And the people working in the ring may be working really, really hard, but at the end of the day, you have to look the part to be the part. Perception is reality, Reggie. And if people perceive you to be a star, you conduct yourself like a star, you're a star. If people perceive you to be trash, good luck overcoming that. Because again, perception, the public's perception, the business's perception, the perception from the promoters and bookers, the writers, whatever the case may be, is so incredibly important for the success of an individual in our industry.
So what makes you keep falling in love with wrestling over the years? What keeps you in love with it after so long of doing it?
Oh, in my life, and I would dare say in the lives of many people that are involved in the business, the most constant thing in their lives has always been wrestling. People have come and gone. Relationships have come and gone. Marriages have come and gone. Money has come and gone. Houses, cars, everything. Stuff has all come and gone. The one constant for many of us has always been the warm embrace of professional wrestling. There were plenty of times where I was a kid where my relationship with my mother was not good. She was undiagnosed bipolar. She made life at times a living hell for myself and my grandmother, and wrestling was an escape. I could enter this crazy world with these larger than life characters and personalities. I could be transported to that time and I could forget my troubles and worries. And that stayed with me, Reggie. And that's why I take what I do so incredibly seriously. And some people think I take it too seriously. But that's the reason why. That's ultimately the reason why, is because our job at the end of the day is to help take people's minds off their troubles and worries and allow them to have an escape for just a little while. Let them cheer to their heart's content or boo the heel, unmercifully, to vent, it's a cathartic experience to just let it all out. The stuff that they can't do in their normal life, they can do watching wrestling, especially independent wrestling, where that interpersonal connection with the fans and the actual performers in ring is second to none. But it's all of our jobs to create moments and memories, yes, but it's also our primary job to do our job well enough to where those people can suspend disbelief, where they can stop obsessing and ruminating about all their worries, troubles, problems, issues, and they could just relax and have fun for a little while. And that may sound trivial to some, but to me, in my eyes and my own experiences in my life, that's freaking huge. That is huge, because that's the difference between somebody going completely over the edge and someone being able to live to fight another day. Because you never know the battles that somebody's going through. Like I said before, when people say that they've had bad experiences with legends, it's like, you don't know what that person's going through at that point in time. They just could be having an off day. It doesn't mean that you have to condemn them for life. But the same thing happens in just normal life, is that you don't know what people are going through. And a lot of times the happiest of individuals are the ones that are the most troubled. So ultimately, the art form, performing, storytelling, but it's the joy I can help bring people and that escape that I can help provide through what I do. And I've had so many people write me or tell me in person, they hate my guts on shows. but before or after or intermission or whatever the case may be, they come up to me and they shake my hand and like, man, I love what you do. It's awesome. Keep up the great work. It was so much fun. And like, to me, like, you know, I subscribe to the theory, and I know some old school folks are gonna, like, they'll hate me saying this, but it's the honest to God the way that I think about it. I still try to adhere to kayfabe as much as I possibly can. I really do.
Yep.
But when it comes to being a heel, when I'm talking to fans, I'll work as a heel a little bit. But I'm not going to be mean to people. I'm not going to be rude to people, because these people paid their hard-earned money to come and enjoy that show. And I don't know what they're going through in their personal lives, and I'm not going to make their life miserable, nor am I going to risk chasing away one of our few loyal paying customers.
Yep.
So, you know, and I would dare say that my philosophy is similar to like what WWE does now. But there's some folks that want a heel to be a heel 24/7. And I just can't subscribe to that theory, because ultimately, you know, I care about the product, I care about the performance, I care about the fans, I care about our business.
Yep.
Now, this is something that's lost on a lot of folks that are involved in our business, Reggie, is the fact that they don't understand that we are all representatives of the business.
Yep.
You know, when I'm out and about, again, getting back to the importance of the appearance, this is something that a few people have talked to me about, one of them being Gabe Sapolsky. Myself and Maurice early last year went to a seminar with Gabe. If you're not familiar with Gabe Sapolsky, learned under the tree of Paul Heyman and ECW, went on to be to help start Ring of Honor and was there for a long time, went on to do Evolve and Dragon Gate USA, and now works back with WWE again.
Yep.
But he talked about the airport effect. And the airport effect is simply when you're in an airport and people see you, they even if they don't know that you work in the business, they just see you and they know that you're somebody.
Yep.
And people will see me, especially when I'm with Maurice. When they see the both of us together, they don't know who we are or what we are, but they know we're something.
Yeah.
Because between his incredible physique and his look, and between, you know, myself with the beard and the mustache and the whole nine, they know we're something. And because of that, it's like we're instantly ambassadors to the wrestling business, because it inevitably leads to conversation. And we're putting over Memphis Wrestling, and we're putting over whatever other company, and we're, you know, talking to people about sampling the product. And if you haven't watched wrestling in a while or a long time, you know, please come give us a try again. You know, we are goodwill ambassadors to the business. We are helping to. I know WWE is doing major business, and the business is doing well as a whole, but at the same time, you know, like, the same amount of fans that were watching wrestling in the 90s are not watching it today. That's what I'm looking at. Like, it's not drawing the same numbers. Like the bigger events still sell a lot of tickets, and WWE's making hand over fist with money, and good for them. I mean, it's, you know, they've done an amazing job of making that company just an absolute entertainment empire. And there's nobody in the wrestling business with half a brain that wouldn't, you know, absolutely hop, skip, and jump for an opportunity to work there. But at the same time, on the independent level, like, you know, there always is room for improvement. There's always room for more fans, new fans, to check out the television, check out the live events, to buy merch, to show support. You know, and by virtue of that, you know, they'll watch other promotions, and it just adds to the fan base for all of us. The reality is that there's so many companies out there that are competing, Reggie, but ultimately we all, if we're smart, we're all kind of working together, because we're trying to bring people just back to wrestling in general, just back to enjoying wrestling. Like, so many people I talked to watched wrestling when they were kids, and they loved it, and then they fell out of love with it. You know, they always talk fondly about the past. They haven't watched in years, and that's why I love Memphis Wrestling so much, because it harkens back to yesteryear in so many ways. Like we have modern day performers that can do some amazing athletically gifted stuff. But we also have that, it just has that vintage old school vibe that if you are a fan, especially if you love Memphis wrestling back in the day, like please check us out because it's harkens back to that time. And that's a big part of the appeal of the circus is that we're like old and new all at the same time. Like
Mhm.
the act feels vintage, it feels nostalgic, but it also feels modern and new as well. So we appeal to such a cross section of different fans, people that love the circus and love carnivals, love the freak shows. I've gone to see Hell's a Poppin' a few times, and that's a
Yeah.
great people
Yeah.
that I absolutely am influenced by. And I would love to see a day if in my wildest imagination, I would love to see a day where like the circus would headline this huge wrestling event that included live music and Hell's a Poppin' and all this different stuff, man. And the reality is that it's not really that far fetched,
No.
but you have to conceive it, you
Yep.
have to believe it, and then you can achieve it. It's possible. I will. I don't mean to interrupt you, Reggie, but you know, I don't know how much more time we got, but I do want to at least add this in before our time is up.
Absolutely.
I wholeheartedly believe in the concept and idea of manifestation. And manifestation goes under a lot of different ideas. Some people like to call it the law of attraction, the secret, whatever the case may be. It all kind of falls under that same umbrella. Manifestation, visualization kind of works like this. When you can envision something so detailed in such an intricate way that it feels real, that it feels like it's actually happening, and you are just absolutely madly deeply obsessed with this vision of what you see for yourself and where you want to be and what you want to do, and it's so detailed and so precise, as long as you're putting in the work to make that happen, the universe will indeed meet you in the middle and connect you with the people you need to connect to and open doors that you need to have open, as long as you're willing to put in the work and as long as you are truly, madly, deeply obsessed with what it is that you really want. CT Fletcher from the fitness world, it's still your MF and set is his thing, but he talks about the magnificent obsession, where to get any real amount of success at whatever it is that you want to do, you have to be just absolutely obsessed by it. Otherwise, it's never going to happen. So manifestation, a few things for me. The biggest one, a handful of years ago, I had this vision in my mind, managing a monster heel versus Jerry the King Lawler. About a year or so ago, through Bobby Fulton and his son Dylan, main event of the night, Eric Redbeard, aka Eric Rowan, managed by me, versus Jerry the King Lawler. Jerry decides to make it a tag match where Bobby's son Dylan was going to be his partner, and I'm teaming with Eric Redbeard. I'm literally in the ring getting punched in the mouth by Jerry the King Lawler.
Oh my God.
So all of that, and that's not the only thing, but I'm saying that is, if that's not an example of manifestation, I truly don't know what is. So the reason why I say that is because no matter how wild a dream a person out there may have, number one, it's never too late. You're not too old. You could still do this. No matter how wild your dream is, if you really want it, if you're obsessed by it, day and night, you think about it, you eat, sleep, dream it, and you see it in such detail. As long as you're not just daydreaming and you're actually putting in the work to make it a reality, it's possible. It is possible. I don't share this with a lot of people, Reggie, but again, I want to try to encourage and inspire people out there. I'm 48 years old. I am not a young man, but I feel young. I'm young at heart and young at spirit, and my creativity is just coursing through my veins. And I've got so much more still to do in the wrestling business. And it's all stuff that I will do before I decide to move on to whatever the next chapter is of my life. A good friend of mine, his name is Steve, artist, poet, musician, started to really live his life after he turned 44. By the time he turned 50, things were really starting to come together for him. Band was starting to open up for some bigger acts. He truly seemed happy. And then he passed away.
Oh,
And I'm not going to go into the details of that
right.
because it's a heartbreaking story, and I don't want to be a downer for this
Right.
podcast, but I'm using that as an example to say to people, don't you, even if you're that age, there's still possibility. But for those of you who are younger than me, that are younger than my friend Steve, like, don't be stupid like I was and wait so long to finally do what you really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get up off the couch, stop making excuses, stop procrastinating, do the work that needs to be done and make it happen. Because ultimately, you are the author of your own story, whether you believe it or not. People have far more control of their lives than they ever let on. But the reality is that you are the author, you are the architect of your life. You can make this whatever you want to make it. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it's possible. It's absolutely possible. That's the one main regret I have in my life, man, is the fact that I waited so long before I finally flipped that switch and made the decision to do this. And once I made the decision, it's been full steam ahead. Don't get me wrong, but I waited so long. And for anybody out there watching or listening to this, you don't like do it. Do not put it off till tomorrow. Do it right now. Like there's stuff you can do to make your dream a reality now. And the constant excuse of I'm too busy or I'm too tired, I'm going to cuss again, Reggie. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. If you put enough value in, if you can sell your time to an employer that's literally just thinks of you as a number and a cog in a machine that once you're used up, you're just going to be taken off and replaced by another cog. If you could sell your time and sell your soul to that company for 8-10 hours a day, when you get home, you can at least invest a couple hours or even an hour, a half hour, 15 damn minutes of your time into yourself, into your dream, into what you really want to do. And not just die inside, not just literally being a walking zombie meat puppet that dances to the beat of whatever the corporations tell you while being completely miserable in the process. You don't have to do that. When I say that I'm the leader, Reggie, this isn't just a wrestling moniker. Like, I literally try to lead my own life. I try to lead by example for others. I'm not trying to preach. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do. If anything, I'm just looking to try to motivate and inspire and hopefully help people avoid some of the pitfalls and mistakes that I made and so many others made. It breaks my freaking heart to think about my friend Steve, who finally was living the life that he wanted to live, and then his life was taken away from him. And all I'm saying is that for anybody out there watching, please stop procrastinating, stop waiting, stop using social media as a constant pacifier. Live your freaking life. Be the person you want to be. Go out there and grab it. If you're expecting the sky to open up and opportunity to fall in your lap, you are out of your freaking mind. You have to get up, you have to go get it, and you have to make it happen. Exerting your will is not a bad thing. Sometimes it has to be done. It doesn't mean you're a villain. It doesn't mean you're a bad guy or girl. It just means that there are things that you are supposed to be doing out in the world. And I can guarantee you that your creator did not put you on this planet merely to sit there with drool come out of the side of your mouth, watching asinine television shows, reality shows, and selling your soul and time to a corporation, where at the end of the day, you could be fired in an instant.
And you got me fired up, man. Oh, you got me fired up. And I can relate to that, man. Like, I tell people all the time, like, they ask, like, how do you get interviews with such and such? Because I do a lot of work in music as well. So I mean, and
Awesome.
music photography too. I just tell people, like, I just shot my shot. I took the chance. I went for it. I asked, and I put in the work, and I asked for the opportunity, and the worst they could say is no, and then if they say
Yes.
no, you keep trying, and I've been in situations where it's like, there's no way I should ever be here or in this place right now, but it's real. And speaking of that, to wrap it up, 2024, man, Circus is back going strong. Memphis Wrestling going strong. You guys just signed a partnership with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and Reality of Wrestling. It looks like this is going to be a big year. What are you looking forward to this year?
Ooh, you got me feeling the tingles, getting goosebumps right now thinking about all of this. So for the Maurice, I'm going to lean in on this one because this is a big deal. And it's incredibly important to myself and Maurice. Maurice went down with that injury, the torn ACL, at the beginning of May of last year. He had the surgery in June. There was a long period of time that I didn't know if he was going to come back. He didn't know if he was going to come back. There was a point where I was more concerned about him as a human being than I was worried about professional wrestling anymore. He's not a kid, but I'm going to call him a kid. That kid worked his ass off to come back bigger, stronger, looking like a virtual Greek god, hungrier than ever. During the time that he was down, I tried to do the best I could to keep active. I kept trying to get in front of people, kept trying to network because I knew when he was back that I didn't want us to have to start all over again from scratch. I wanted us to kind of somewhat resume where we left off and continue to move forward. Memphis Wrestling was incredible. Dustin Starr gave me an opportunity and kept me on television even when Maurice was injured. I can't thank him enough. The LA Hustlers, a tag team in Memphis Wrestling. I worked with them on Memphis TV and did some very unique stuff, some very fun stuff as Barnabas the producer.
You ever get your shoes
And
back?
what's up?
You ever get your shoes back?
You don't have to remind me of
I'm sorry.
memories I just as soon forget, Reggie.
I'm sorry.
But we created something truly magical and special that was only supposed to last a few weeks, and it ended up lasting several months. Right up until, if you are regularly watching Memphis Wrestling, you saw Maurice pick up one of our friends and throw him over the top rope onto his partner, signifying the end of our time with the LA Hustlers. But as much as those guys should have listened to me, they honestly did me a huge favor and helped keep me relevant on television. With all that being said, during all that time, so many doubts, so many questions, 2024 has to be the year. And what I mean by that is Maurice and I, we're not kids. We're not getting any younger. We've already lost time because of the injury. Circumstances completely out of our control.
Sure.
2024 has to be our year, the year that we finally break on through to the other side and do what we have set out to do, which our ultimate goal is to be featured as star attraction talent on national and international television. And that's not an easy task to fulfill, but it's been our goal since day one. It was the goal I had before ever meeting Maurice. And then when I met him, to find out that's the same goal that he had. And that's, again, why the act works so well, because there's a commonality of that is the focus, that is the goal. But in the process, the partnership between Memphis Wrestling, we've already had a working agreement with David Marquez and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
But now that relationship is even further strengthened, that bond has grown. And now, man, with Booker T's Reality of Wrestling, and it's crazy to think about this, Reggie, but not too long ago, I just saw photos come out of Reality of Wrestling where they have a brand new arena and it looks incredible for television. And I was thinking to myself of places that we could go that would make sense to help get us further TV coverage. And Reality of Wrestling popped into my mind. And then I see the press release like everybody else does. And I was completely blown away. And that is such an exciting prospect. There's so many opportunities to potentially go to California, to go to Texas, to have their talents come to us in Memphis. Um, Iron sharpens iron, and we want competition. It was exclusively put on Memphis Wrestling Plus by virtue of our friend JD, but there was a press conference that took place after the Grind City Rumble, and I spoke. And at that point in time, I called out the best of the best, not just in Memphis, but in the entire wrestling industry. I challenged them to come to Memphis to enter our big top, to face Maurice the Strong. Now we see who steps up to the challenge. The big top's open for business. We welcome everyone to enter. But I will assure you that what you find inside is not fun and games, and it's not carnival rides. Well, except for one ride, of course. And that ride would be called the Claw-O-Matic. And that is the claw slam, the finishing maneuver of one Maurice the Strong. But in addition to Memphis, we certainly have other things on the horizon as well. Currently, Maurice is not with me there at this point yet, but I work for NWA Exodus Pro in Cleveland, Ohio, in a very different capacity. I have helped to host the events, and I am now the ring announcer of those events.
Ooh.
I also help a bit with helping with producing a tad in the back as well, just a little bit. And if you're not familiar with Exodus Pro, start to get dialed in, because that promotion is about to explode. It is part of the NWA territory system. EC3 is the main individual that runs it and is behind it. He is originally from Cleveland, Ohio. We utilize some Cleveland talent, but at the show, we just had an amazing show this past weekend. Richard Holliday from MLW, Ricky Shane Page, who's long been one of my favorite performers on the independent scene, also from MLW. Natalia Markova, an amazingly gifted athlete from the National Wrestling Alliance. Most people think that she's just all looks, and she's an incredibly beautiful woman. But if you've never seen her perform, oh my God, she is like a buzzsaw in the ring. Just an absolute tenacious performer. Tiffany Nieves, who works for OVW, who works for the NWA. If that's not a talent that's destined to work for WWE, I don't know who is. Beautiful, great on the mic, tremendous in ring. Literally, when you see her, she's an absolute star. You've got talents like Carson Drake,
Yes.
from that are from California, but really cut their teeth in wrestling in the Cincinnati area. Got connected with Exodus Pro and is now signed with the NWA. A tag team out of my old stomping grounds in New York, the Slime Balls. Two young guys with an extremely unorthodox gimmick, but so fun and so entertaining, and they are so good and so hungry. Through Exodus, they also were signed to the National Wrestling Alliance. Lord Crew, another local talent, big, strong, great look, intimidating. A guy I met years ago, not just through wrestling, but because he would help work security for boxing events that I used to do photography at. So I've known him for a long time. Another great talent that's up there, Highway Miles Jacobs. Again, such an unorthodox, I'm getting all tongue-tied, unorthodox character and gimmick. He's a real-life trucker. That's his gimmick. His charisma, his connection with the crowd is second to none. Chelsea, sweet girl that I consider a friend from the Cleveland area. Crazy charisma, super over with that audience. This is just naming a few talents that are up there. But we get name talent. We have talent from the independents. We have talent from all over that are coming through, and I'm telling you that that particular promotion is about to explode. So it is a joy to be up there as well. But there's a lot of other things that are coming up on the horizon. 2024 is the year, Reggie. We've got a documentary that'll be coming out over the next handful of weeks about Maurice's comeback, the return. I'm working on that. We're getting some name talent to send in some videos talking about the circus and talking about Maurice, because we've spread a lot of goodwill out there, and there's thankfully a lot of people that like us and specifically really love Maurice. So we're going to have that come out. I am working with a production company to produce a horror short based around the circus. That should be coming out in May. Like, we've got a lot of stuff that's coming on, man. Like, there'll be new merch that'll be released here in the next couple weeks. So, I mean, this is just like, we're just getting started, man. Like, there's a lot of stuff, but regardless, by the end of the year, by the end of 2024, for those who haven't heard of the circus, who haven't heard of Barnabas, who haven't heard of Maurice, I guarantee by the end of the year they will have, because we are preparing to be everywhere and anywhere there is opportunity. There are cameras, there are buzz, there are influencers. We are looking to be everywhere. We are looking to come to a town near you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and even you, Reggie.
I love it. Finally, man, where can people find you, connect with you, and get in touch with you online? You're
So
every
I am on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
okay.
There we go. You can find me under one of two aliases. You'll either find me under David Barnabas Spector, or you'll find me under Barnabas the Leader. There's also accounts for the circus. The circus is spelled with a Z on the end. But I am across all the social media platforms. I try to post pretty consistently stuff that we're putting out. A lot of the great photography that, again, Shawn Lawrence does. Very blessed to know him. Such a amazing individual. Just to plug people that I really enjoy, Taz and his amazing family. His daughter is Madison Payne. She's a young girl that works for Supreme. His wife Shannon, their little guy Brody. Such an amazing family. He does a lot of my artwork. We've got brand new custom ring music that's going to be coming and debuting on Memphis television probably next month. That was produced by a very cool local musician called Dead Man String Band. Dead Man String Band is awesome performer. Theatrical, cool, dark, eerie music, and he put our music together, and I'm so excited to release that. But I say all that not to brag, Reggie, but I say all that because we've talked about networking a few times in the show today. And when it comes to networking and the importance of that, it's not just about networking with other wrestling people. It's about networking with all different kinds of people. People in photography, people in music, people in art. Like, you never know when someone will be able to be helpful to you, and you can be helpful to them. So just across the board, it's always a good rule of thumb to just be a good human being. It is so much easier to just be a good human being and be nice and be decent to people rather than being a jerk and being rude and being selfish. Like, just be a good human being. Like, thank goodness when Maurice and I are out on the road, everywhere we go, we both are on the same page when it comes to spreading goodwill and being well liked, and just trying to be good human beings, man. So, and you'd be amazed at being a good human being, being consistent and being persistent, what all of that will do for your career, for your life, for your heart, soul, and spirit, man. Just be good to each other and be good human beings, man.
Absolutely, man.
And I'd be remiss, Reggie, if I didn't give you a little bit of character work before I leave. So for all of you insectoids watching at home, you have been blessed to sit beneath the learning tree of the undeniable leader of professional wrestling, for I am David Barnabas Spector, and the pleasure has been all yours.